Hello everyone, welcome. We're happy to have you with us today. My name is Carrie Ferg, and I'm your host for the Manta Trends webcast, Sales Tax Tips for Online Sellers, Amazon Laws, and the Marketplace Fairness Act. Manta wants to thank sales and use tax expert Mark Giddens for generously donating his time and expertise, and Avalara for sponsoring today's webcast. We hope you'll tweet about today's event using hashtag MantaTrends. I want to take a few minutes to cover some important housekeeping items about the event. Let's first talk about your screen. During the webcast, you should see a slide area. Left of that is the media player, under it a box called the resource list, and some widgets. All of the widgets open and close. If you're having technical difficulties, please click on the Help widget, the one with the question mark icon. My colleague Mel is answering your technical questions, so just send her a note. I'd like to introduce our expert today, Mark Giddens. Mark Giddens is one of Avalara's founding employees and has worked in accounting and sales and use tax management for over 16 years. He is Director and Tax Technology Expert at Avalara. Click on the speaker widget in your console to learn more about Mark. We're glad to have you today, Mark. I'd like to hand it over to Mark now. Mark, can you explain the Marketplace Fairness Act and the Remote Transaction Parity Act for our audience today?
Sure. The Marketplace Fairness Act and Remote Transaction Parity Act are legislation that would grant states the authority to require certain remote sellers to collect sales tax if states adopt specific measures to simplify sales and use tax administration. The MFA would also broaden state authority to require remote or online sellers to collect sales tax regardless of whether that business has a physical presence within those states. These bills would authorize states to require remote sellers to collect and remit sales tax in accordance with state and local laws as long as those states are in full compliance with the Streamlined Sales and Use Tax Agreement or a member of the Streamlined Sales Tax Organization, or if they implement a minimum set of simplification measures. There are currently 22 full SST member states that comply with the following: state-level administration of sales and use tax collections, uniformity in the state and local tax bases, uniformity of major base definitions, central electronic registration systems for all member states, simplification of state and local tax rates, uniform sourcing rules for all taxable transactions, the simplified administration of exemptions, simplified tax returns, simplification of tax remittances, and protection of consumer privacy. For states that are not members of the Streamlined Sales Tax Initiative, the minimum simplification measures they must implement prior to exercising the authority that MFA would grant include a single entity within the state responsible for all state and local sales and use tax administration, return processing, and audits for remote sales sourced to the states, a single audit of remote seller for all state and local taxing jurisdictions, a single sales and use tax return to be used by remote sellers, a uniform sales and use tax base. All interstate sales should comply with destination-based sourcing rules, and make available information regarding taxability of products and services, including any applicable exemptions. Make available software that calculates and applies correct tax rates must be available to all remote sellers. What is the bottom line for businesses? MFA-like legislation would add complexity to an already burdensome business process. Remote sellers would have the added burden of meeting sales and use tax collection and remittance requirements in each state into which they sell and in which they do not currently have nexus. Sales tax compliance tools like Avalara's can help your small business avoid risk by automating the entire sales tax process, ensuring that you stay compliant despite changing rules and regulations.
Thanks, Mark. Join us next Tuesday for the last part in this tax series to learn all about how to avoid sales tax audits. Save your questions for this last webcast on avoiding sales tax audits, which is scheduled for October 20th. During the last webcast, you will have the opportunity to get your questions answered by Mark about any of the 3 webcasts in this series during the live event or afterward via the Ask the Expert session on the Manta community. We've got to wrap it up now, but be sure to sign up for our October 29th expert webinar on innovation, which is also linked in the resource list. Thanks again to Avalara for sponsoring today's webcast and to everyone for attending.